Almost a year ago on my main channel, I think in April, maybe even late May, I posted a video on my channel saying that I was done, that I had, done what I wanted to do on YouTube and that I was moving on. I also gave myself a window of opportunity to, if I decided to return, that I could return, and this was not a finite, this was not, end all be all, and that it was a indefinite leave with the expectation that I would not return. And that was not some good marketing ploy. I have good titles, I have good thumbnails, I think about my content strategy, don't get me wrong, but that was not a marketing ploy. That was not me wanting to take a couple weeks off and have a lot of hype for me when I came back. I was genuinely considering never coming back to the platform. And while I covered a lot of reasons, I touched on one briefly, but I never really went into detail how it affected me. And I thought today's video would be a good opportunity to talk about parasocial relationships. That's a buzzword that's being thrown around a lot. And also just how uncomfortable having so many people listen and watch what you do, and how I've kind of changed recently, or not recently, but how I've changed my interactions with my audience to make it, to make it bearable. So back in April, I will say one thing is every time I've quit several times on my main channel, and it's normally correlated with a downtrend in the channel. However, it's not ever solely because of a downtrend in the channel. Normally when my channel is doing very well, the spike in views and that kind of the dopamine rush that is associated with that normally will cover up or make up for any other downsides that are weighing on me, or the trade-offs will be like, well, yes, this is emotionally stressful or it's impacting my mental health negatively. However, it's going really well and it's still a lot of fun and I should just keep going, right? But the second that dries up and the viewership is not low but stabilized and that kind of rush has gone away, it kind of exposes or makes a much more obvious the downsides that were covered up before. And in April, I was at a point where I was incredibly uncomfortable with my position I had on the internet. I had several interactions. None of them were stalkerish or even by any standards bad. They were just many, many interactions that were way too personal with people that I didn't know and people who didn't know me. But we had interactions as if it felt like, we knew each other. And there were people that knew a lot about me. And it was all kind of, coming down on me at the same time. At that point, like 6 months ago, I had a YouTube channel that got around like 100 views per video if I was lucky. I was at a point like even 6 months before that point where I had no real audience or presence or anything on the internet. I think I had a few followers on Twitter at that time. I got like 10 likes, which isn't bad for an account if I'm being honest. And it all came very quickly, and I could never probably explain to myself 6 months before why I would quit because too many people were paying attention to me. That would have made absolutely no sense. But the experience of any social media platform, when you have hundreds of thousands of people, watching you, is a way to put it, as opposed to being a casual consumer with maybe some friends or a couple thousand, which is still very impressive, but it's just a completely different magnitude than a couple 100,000. It's a completely different experience, social media is. So a lot of people really can't understand it, and I'm not just saying that because, their brains are too small, they can't comprehend. I could not have been able to understand what it was like before as well. I feel that the derivative of the problem here, the root of all this, like the issue is how, we are wired to, take in feedback to survive. We are wired to see how the tribe sees us so that we don't get kicked out and are forced to, fend for ourselves or can no longer, reap the benefits of being part of a tribe. And that has not gone away. In fact, that's probably strengthened as a lot more of, success is, social and social cues. But social cues normally came from your friends. They came from your colleagues. They came from your classmates. And even that could be stressful. If one person was like not a big fan of you and you're like, oh my God, this person doesn't like me. And just imagine if like thousands of people per day, and my hate was never that bad. But whenever you have any size on the internet, you're going to have people that, that don't like you. And I always used to think about it like, just grow up, man. Get over it. Like, it's really not a big deal. And I've come to the point now where I'm so significantly better. One, I don't look for that stuff as it just doesn't make sense for me to look for it. And two, I just don't take it at the same personal level that I did before. But when you have thousands and thousands of people not even just negative feedback, but just interacting with you. It's just like you're overloading your sensors of like other people's perception, and you just focus on it. You just focus on it. There's nothing else you can think about it. I think my worst time mentally, was when I used Twitter the most. This is gonna sound like a meme, but unironically, the quality of my mental health was directly correlated with my Twitter usage. Ever since I deleted Twitter, I've had a really great life. Has been good. Obviously, not a direct correlation, but if you mapped it out, it would be very clear. And while I do have a Discord server, and that's probably the closest way that I do interact with people, I only hop in like once a day at a minimum, and I try and keep my communications limited just to the staff to make sure that they're, that I, attend to any needs stuff, because they're running the place, they're doing a lot of work, and I want to make sure that they feel appreciated. And it isn't just because, I quote unquote hate my audience, or, oh, I don't care about the fans or whatever, and that if I really cared, I'd be in there 24/7. No, if I wanted to if I wanted to be miserable, I'd be in there 24/7. And that's nothing against the people who watch me. I mean, I genuinely do enjoy a limited handful of interactions with people. It's why I go in there every once in a while and I say hello, and the feedback is wonderful. I mean, people are saying, oh, hi, like, I'm so excited, like, talk, like, really, really nice stuff, and it feels really good. But the second that is elongated past only a couple interactions, right, it just completely goes off a cliff, and I can feel it coming again. It's a work in progress. How I've been able to, adapt to, having a huge audience relative to what I've ever had extremely quickly. And it was not easy at first. It was a challenge. I did not anticipate that challenge. I anticipated a lot about YouTube because I studied it very closely for a very long time. And while I think YouTube is a lot of luck, it's also a lot of like, you got to be prepared for the luck, and I was. But the whole relationship you have with hundreds of thousands of random people, knowing who you are very quickly, even if it's only a brief kind of like, you're only in their consciousness briefly, is something I was not prepared to deal with.